Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Let's Have Renaissance, a podcast about writing, editing, publishing, literature, the arts, and more. I am Ito Utini.
And I'm Makaya Utini, and today we're speaking with Michele Wolf. Michele is the author of several books of poems, most recently Peacocks on the Streets, published by Broadstone Books in 2025. Her work has been supported by several residency programs, including the Edward F. Albee Foundation. We're excited to be with her today.
Thank you for tuning in. We're excited that you're here. Why don't you also subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode with your friends?
And if you know anyone who wants to come on the podcast, please do send them our way. Also, if you haven't yet, sign up for our free newsletter where we share updates, resources, and opportunities. To support the podcast, you can make a one-time donation through our website or purchase a subscription to our blog where you'll find more premium content and resources at thedatekeepers.com. Thank you for being a part of our community.
Michele, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have you. Can you tell us about yourself and what are you working on?
Sure. Most recently, the biggest splash I've had, the most exciting one is I have a new poetry book out called Peacocks on the Streets. And the title comes from the time during the pandemic, during the first few months when we were really under quarantine, based at home, and the streets were empty. And a lot of animals ventured outside their standard habitats to just check out the commercial and residential spaces. So I thought that was intriguing, and it became a metaphor for, a lot of what I was writing about, and that identification with animals and the sense of fearlessness that they can have. In any case, that's my third poetry book. I've also write some personal essays. I used to write a lot of journalism, mostly for earning a living, and I am working on some new poems.
And what are you doing at this point to promote the new poetry collection?
Well, I've been very busy since before the book came out last September, seeking reviews, seeking opportunities to be interviewed. I have given more than half dozen readings in the greater DC area where I live, and have been exploring opportunities to read elsewhere. I just learned that I am a finalist for a prize called the Patterson Prize for Poetry, and was invited to read out in Paterson, New Jersey with the other finalists and winners.
Congrats.
Thank you.
So how are you enjoying the readings?
What I'm finding is that people are grateful to be able to be out again, that the danger is not what it once was. And they're really looking for connection. I find it extremely fulfilling to give readings and lock eyes with somebody while I'm reading a piece, and you just know that you've made a connection and there's an appreciation for the piece of art that is getting expressed. I found that I've had decent crowds. I haven't had trouble with, even in in snowy weather at the Arts Club of Washington, people came out. There's a desire to share this kind of writing and to hear it from the author. I think it empowers it in some way. I know that I've also given more than 100, I can't put a figure on, I've given more than 100 readings over the years. That's conservative. And I write the poems so that the rhythm of the poems is kind of intrinsic to it, so that when I recite the poems, they just flow fairly well. And I feel I'm able to gather up the audience with me as I'm reading. It's very satisfying. It's just a really human exchange. I enjoy it.
Can you tell us, how did you become a poet?
Well, I had some exposure to poetry as a kid. but I was the first to go to college in my family, and I was the kid who had brought the books into the house. As a young child, I wrote poems and short stories. In high school, I would call them thoughts in jagged lines. I'm not sure they qualify as poems when I was in high school. And then I set it aside during my college years and went to a writer's conference, and it was the first time that I had heard poems read aloud by their authors, because I had never had any exposure to contemporary poetry before then. And I just kind of had a transformation. I walked in a journalist and I walked out a poet.
I'm curious about publishing poetry, chapbooks, and poetry collections. What trends are you seeing in that part of the publishing industry?
Well, it used to be that there were a lot of contests for a first full-length book of poems. And I say full-length because there are also chapbooks. Chapbooks are sort of a mini book. It's usually a limited press run. It's only a few hundred copies, and it's short. It's like 20 to 24 pages, and it serves as a stepping stone between just getting some work into journals and then getting a chapbook, a mini book published before your book comes out. The term comes from the same derivation as cheap. And back in the day, in the Middle Ages, I guess, there were chapmen who sold little books of songs and stories and poems, and the name chapbook has stuck in the poetry world. So there are contests for chapbooks. A chapbook can be considered one's first book, but it also doesn't disqualify you. If you're ready to publish like a 48-page book, 48 to 72-page book, and you've published a chapbook, you could still consider your full-length book your first book, because the chapbook is sort of ambiguous in terms of, what it fulfills. So one thing that changed is that there used to be a lot of contests that were exclusively for getting your first book out, loads of them sponsored by university presses and small presses. And in recent years, what there is more of is there are a lot of contests to publish a book, but it's not restricted to your first book. So in a way, that opens up the door for people who have beyond their first book, but it does lead to more competition for winning the prize for those who have yet to publish their first book.
Speaking of books that are not one's first book, would you like to read an excerpt from maybe a few poems from your latest book?
Sure. I brought one poem from my prior book, too, if that would be all right.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. My prior book was called Immersion, came out from the WordWorks, and this is called The Great Tsunami. She recognizes its crest in the way he looks at her. The wave is as vast as the roiling mass in the Japanese print they had paused in front of at the museum, capped with ringlets of foam, all surging sinew. That little village along the shore would be totally lost. There is no escaping this. The wave is flooding his heart, and he is sending the flood her way. It rushes over her. Can you look at one face for the whole of a life? Does the moon peer down at the tides and hunger for home?
Very nice.
Thank you. This one is Peacocks on the Streets. It faces me down, so still, a fire of amber eyes and mangy fur. 1 month into quarantine, a lone coyote, gifted with the hush of empty streets, is visiting town, the block with the movie theater, commandeering the corner outside my door. In Mumbai, honking peacocks strut their inky iridescence, flaunt their luxe, medallioned capes, as they parade along the residential streets. Mountain goats and coastal whales laze on top of cars or window browse at closed cafes and shops. Maybe this will last a month, we imagined. Maybe 6 weeks, as we loaded our cart with disinfectant, a rotisserie chicken, toilet paper. The evening was warm, so we lit a barbecue out back, before the slew of animal sightings. Addled with virus news we neglected to lock up. The next day we discovered that a thief had crept inside while we were dreaming, disappeared with our home safe, a trove of watches, diamonds, pearls. Not the items a person requires to confront the dying. Soon, the first of our circle would die. Our daughter, age 16, cries daily, overwhelmed by the new normal. Today my feed directs me to James Taylor, old now, as I have become. He has been talking about depression, about as a teen, living for 9 months in a psychiatric hospital, about addiction and how lucky he feels that he's survived. In a new video, he sings while sheltering in place a song from an album I played over and over, a balm to obliterate sorrow, when I was 16. A song I hadn't thought about or heard in some 50 years. It makes me 16 again to hear that voice, so sincere, even after 1,000 renditions, assuring me that I can close my eyes. It's all right. And in a heap, I just break down. At a pawn shop an hour away, our detective has found my grandmother's gold and diamond watch. He has nailed a suspect. Fin whales have launched a splashy playground at the port of Marseille. Our daughter, I repeat to myself, is going to be all right. A coyote faces me on my corner. Living with wildlife is a part of life, what we fear, what we prize. Wildlife is what we have. And then this is a little more cheerful. My Elvis. Show me the ripened bride who is sure. The night preceding our wedding, I couldn't sleep. I waited awake through the dawn that followed. A decade later, our daughter plunks me into a chair, sends fireworks crackling through my nerves by clicking on the wedding video. I'm fine as I witness the ceremony, watching the cake topper twosome, our glowing younger selves. You so princely in your tux, your sun on the sea green eyes fixed upon me. I'm fine until at the reception, after our first dance, when you take my hand and on bended knee, backed up by the band and the blaze of light radiating from 100 guests, you croon, your voice holding open the gate at the portal to our tomorrow, that you can't help falling in love with me. Then I have 2 more short ones. Olympic champion. I wrote this after watching a documentary on PBS. The tremor starts not as a temblor, not even as an autumn rustling of leaves. It starts as a butterfly rising, fluttering, as the briefest gesture of wings. So quickly it vanishes, repeats with longer visits. These can linger for years, until the flutter is repelled by the pummel, is expelled by the pummel of a 1-2 punch, then punch after punch after punch. How the body seizes. Stilling millions of viewers, the relay's final athlete clutched the flaming wand, his hand in his left arm convulsing without pause, but the rest of him steely, inviting the task. Ignited, the crowd, lurching to their feet, roared. They had witnessed the greatest, had found their hearts bouncing outside their control. That was for Muhammad Ali, 1942 to 2016. Ladybug. Where did you come from? Red lacquered spangle, glistening black dotted gem. You cling to a woven window shade in my bedroom, next to a window unopened for months. I collect you in a tissue, prepare to release you on top of a brick step beside the front door. You lie on your back, your legs kicking wildly, motorizing your goodbye. I still have the ladybug costume I bought for my daughter, a toddler, for Halloween. The headband floating two floppy antennae that wobbled whenever she shifted her head. I also saved her pumpkin candy bucket and orange and black bat pajamas. Trick or treat. How many mornings and evenings I dressed her up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming on. We appreciate you making the time.
Well, thank you. That went so smoothly.
Yeah,
You take care.
Happy writing.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.